have a special guest, three-time Hall of Fame producer, is only 3 years in the industry, hit Hall of Fame all 3 times, has already hit Hall of Fame this year back in July. We have Rami Hamady on the call with us today. Rami, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Maurice. Thanks for having me. How are you guys doing today?
Doing amazing. Thanks for asking. So before we kind of jump into it, Rami, for those folks on the call that maybe haven't heard from you before, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you were doing before Family First Life and why Family First Life.
Yeah, so guys, if you guys don't know me, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, up here in the Northeast. I was basically a full-time student. I lived in Boston for a little bit, moved overseas to Beirut, Lebanon, basically the country right above Israel, and I lived there for 9 years. It's a great time. I got to learn about, my culture, but importantly, living outside the United States gets you to kind of look outside the box, and I'm sure many people on this call have traveled or will travel. Do you guys understand what I mean by when I say that? No respect to anybody who has not traveled or lived outside the United States. But I did that for a little bit. I decided to come back to the United States when I was 18 by myself. I wanted to go to college. I went to medical school, became an PA, then I wanted to become an MD. In my transition from becoming a physician assistant into an MD, I reconnected with Marisa. Now, guys, I've known Marisa for quite some time, for probably more than now 17 years. But when I reconnected with her, I always asked her, what are you doing? I would see on Instagram all these posts, all these stories, daily sales, not families protected. Back then, it was actual numbers. So I got pretty interested and I was like, all right, what is this? I was right in the hospital helping families, guys, on a bedside manner. But I always knew that, there could be more than you just helping people in the hospital. Let me kind of, give this thing a shot. I came to business part-time a little bit and I realized that, if you have the passion, guys, and you care about people in general and you don't mind, taking the time to sit down with somebody and explain their true situation, whether that be, physically, health wise, right? In this industry, it might be financially, and maybe for somebody else, spiritually. It all depends. If you're able to sit down and kind of go through that, you can help get them where they need to get to. And I realized in this business, I can financially and in the hospital, I can do it through health and wellness. So long story short, I came into business part time, had no idea what was going to happen, had no insurance experience, had nothing at all. I said, hey, let me just give this thing a shot. I know Christina and Marisa. I knew they wouldn't steer me wrong. So I said, hey, let's go ahead and give it a chance. And it worked out. Ever since then, guys, my first month, I helped 18 families. And ever since then, it was upwards. I haven't went back.
Absolutely. And I think it's just quite the story because it goes to show, guys, like if you care about people, you want to help people, there's different ways, different manners you can do it. And there's always a transition of a skill set, right? And I think that's exactly what Rami went ahead and did. Now, before we jump into, so the topic, guys, if you guys didn't see it, it's consistency in handling objections and rebuttals. Now, I phrased it that way intentionally. Now, we can kind of pick it apart and call it consistency, objections, and rebuttals. But really what I really wanted to kind of hone in on is, guys, there's days in this business where we might not want to talk to anybody. But guess what? Like, that's our job. Our job is to talk to people, right? So there's going to be consistency, right? We're always consistently doing something, whether it's good, bad, and different, right? We're always consistently doing something. And that was probably one of the best pieces of advice that somebody actually gave me, because I sat back and thought about it. And I was like, we can consistently do the wrong thing, the right thing, but we're going to have an outcome regardless, right? So with that being said, Rami, I wanted to hit on kind of consistency, and it's not about how you feel that day, right? Whether you're going to object or you're going to rebuttal, how you're going to act with the client, how the presentation is going to go. If you're having a bad day that day, Rami, is it fair to say that you sound pretty much exactly the same as if you're having your best day ever?
100%, guys. Yes, because consistency is really important in the business, guys, because like Marisa said, you can have an off day and let's be realistic, right? We all called the lead one day and the guy said, hey, F you, screw off, pound sand, I don't want to talk to you, right? At the same time, that person did, fill the form out at one point and he didn't have that mindset filling it out. He didn't fill it out and said, I want someone to come tell me fuck off. Sorry, I didn't tell the person F off. I'm not going to tell these people, X, Y, Z. They filled it out because they needed help. Now, when we're calling the leads, I have the mentality that their families need help and that they're not filling it out to piss me off. So at the end of the day, that I know I have to be consistent in how I'm speaking to them, because if I take the highs too highs, the lows too lows, and I get ticked off pretty easily, guys, not in general, but everybody get pretty ticked off, I'm not going to sound the same. So the person's going to be like, hey, this guy sounds a little too pushy, a little too aggressive. Maybe, he's trying to force me to get the appointment, force me to make the sale. But if you realize being a new agent, just being consistent with your word tracks, consistent with your tonality, and just the way you're handling things throughout the business, it's gonna make your learning curve much easier. So the first thing I realized is that I have to be consistent with what I'm saying and what I'm doing. If you take me and you record me, guys, 10 out of 10 times, I'm going to sound the same. Maybe there may be a little, I look at it again to science. There's the body, right? We all have the same bones. Every single person here, except outside of females, have a little bit pieces that are different, wider hip bone. We all have the same bones, literally. So, but we all have different meat, different fat, right? The majority of it may be a little bit different, but the outline's the same. If you can make your outline, the introduction, who you are. My name's Rami Hamady. Who are you? I'm the senior underwriter calling you back about what? I'm calling you back about the final expense appointment, the veteran affordable life insurance programs, the mortgage insurance. If you're able to maintain that logic and maintain that outline, it's going to make it much easier for you to kind of stay consistent because, again, you're saying the same thing over and over. And what's the main goal? The purpose of my call, guys, is to help you explain the options that you guys are looking for, right? To explain the options you may qualify for. Just going to verify the information you provided. And if you're not consistent and you say different things every single time, it's not going to help you book appointments or help families because, again, you're going to say one thing one way, one thing another way. You're not going to know how to correct it. So the guys, most important thing what I'm going to tell you in this business is being consistent on the phones to make those sales and make those appointments. But most importantly, being consistent when you're talking to your agents, talking to your upline. Don't reach out one time to your upline and call it a day and say, hey, I called Risa one time a week and we're all set. We're good. I expect to hit $1 million a month. I expect you to help 100 families, XYZ, and do the math. It ain't gonna happen. You have to truly be consistent. I know I'm being redundant with the inconsistency, but a lot of people on this call, I assume, are not consistent, and that's why you guys aren't on that top 20 leaderboard. And the main thing that separates every single person on there, none of us are special. Nobody does anything differently. They're just consistent. They do the same thing day in, day out, and they figure out a way that, okay, my skeleton, my outline is the same, but maybe the lead type I'm targeting tends to use a different word track per se. Maybe when I'm doing a presentation, maybe a little more soft spoken instead of, so much in their face and being direct. That can make sense.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to, so you kind of honed in on this. So like Rami, it's important to be consistent in everything you're saying. It's also important to be consistent in your actions. That's what I'm kind of hearing, your daily actions. If your daily actions are you wake up, you join the virtual office, these are your hours, you're there, you're doing it every day, it's not negotiable. You treat it just like you treated the hospital, right? If you have to be here from this time to this time, you're here from this time to this time, and you're not complaining, right? Like you're just getting it done. Now, what are the most common objections that we're typically going to bump into? Because Rami, I think it's important to explain, guys, any agent, anybody out there that's struggling right now, whether you're new, you're just kind of having a little bit of a dip in the business, whatever it might be, guys, we all know that clients are not at home like, oh, what's the next thing we can object you with, right? Like there's only a couple of things that they can say to you, right? Like there's only a few of them. And when we can realize that we have to just master a couple of overcoming or being proactive versus reactive, you become really powerful in this business. Now, guys, before Rami kind of hits on, exactly what the most common objections are, it's important to know that is your objection and rebuttal always going to book an appointment, or is it always going to be the end result that you want? No. If every single lead was going to be a slam dunk appointment, they wouldn't be called leads. They would be called appointments, right? Like that's not what we're looking at. So we got to be clear with ourselves. Just because something doesn't work when you talk to 5 people, that's not a big enough sample size to be like, it doesn't work. They said they don't remember why they filled it out, and I brought them back to their beneficiary and their date of birth and the time that they filled the form out. Like that's not going to happen, right? Now, might we want to get a little bit better with how we're saying in our confidence and tonality? Sure. But Rami, there's only a couple different objections that we can get hit with. So what are the most common objections that you bump into?
Of course, and just to touch on what Marisa said, guys, it's really like, think of like the baseball analogy. You guys can say the objections to 100 different people, right? And are 100 people going to, go ahead and book the appointment? No. But I guarantee you that if you are to use these objections and rebuttals to 100 people, compared to if you did not, you hung the phone up, you went on to the next lead, you're not going to book as many appointments, right? So keep in mind that the main point of having the objection rebuttal is not to sit there and argue with the client. It's not to sit there, make it a guaranteed appointment. is to train yourself to understand that sometimes it's okay to push the client. Sometimes you have to bring them back to filling the form out. Sometimes, they went through something very serious that made them feel the lead, and now it's our job to remind them why they did so. Maybe they're having a bad day. You guys would be surprised how many times people tell me these objections, and I call them back, guys, a few days later, and they pretend like nothing ever happened, and they book the appointment. I help the family. They're happy. I'm happy. One big happy family per se, right? But at the end of the day, if I didn't take the time to go ahead and use these objections and continue to call, it wouldn't matter. But the main things, guys, we all get is first I'll touch on is I'm not interested. Now, guys, I kind of have a very stern approach when it comes to I'm not interested. I basically there's two ways you can do it. You can go with the more softer approach and just say, hey, I'm not interested either. It's just my job as the underwriter assigned to your case to explain the privilege you may qualify for. I see you put in your beneficiary as Marisa. I see you put in your date of birth as August 591. All you're doing is you're agreeing with them. You're in agreement saying, okay, hey, I get it. I understand you're not interested. I'm not either. I'm just doing my job. You're answering them by explaining what your purpose is, just doing your job, explaining the options. And you take something from the lead, their date of birth, their age, some type of demographic, like beneficiary name, and you provide it. Remind them what the form is about. Or you can do what I say. I say it's my job to release my internal requirement. It's my job to complete my internal requirement and release my liability. All that means, Marisa, is getting the information out to you. Because, guys, at the end of the day, this business is about who can get to the people first and putting your foot in the door. I know that if I can get somebody on the phone, it doesn't matter if they told me they're not interested. It doesn't matter if they tell me they don't want it. They're a family. They have a wife, they have a kids, and if they're single, they have an income, right? If they're going to lose that income due to a sickness, how can they pay their bills? If they're going to pass away, have a family who's counting on them, how can that family live their years in their 50s and their 60s and their 70s when they're losing an individual, guys? Think of a guy's income, not just for the now, but it's for the future, guys. Like if I'm living right now, I'm 33, I got to make money till I'm 80, till I'm 90, until I'm 100. I hope I pass in the hundreds. But if something happens to me before then, guys, all that money I'm going to make is gone. So you have to keep in mind that, that you really have to stress that. And it's your job to complete the internal requirement and release liability. It's going to give you more opportunities than not.
And guys, just so you're like following with us, like the two different ways that Rami said it, it goes back to it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Which one are you more comfortable saying, right? Rami likes I need to release my internal requirement, just get the options out to you. And typically, honestly, books about 90% of the people he talks to when he says it that way. Now, all we're doing is using a little bit of verbiage and playing it around. I have to release my internal requirement, get the options out to you. Just takes about 10 or 15 minutes, grab a pen and paper, right, Rami? Like, and you're rocking.
Of course.
Okay, perfect. Yep. And then the next one that you probably most commonly get is, I already got that taken care of. How are you handling that?
I say great, Maria. So I understand that. Now, it looks like here that your file is still open review. It's been flagged by the underwriting department. It's just my job to make sure that all the options that were explained to you and that you're not overpaying and that you're in the proper rate class. That's one way I go about it. Now, sometimes, guys, you don't have to say the word overpaying or proper rate class. You just have to say your file has been flagged by the review by the underwriting department, and it's my job to make sure all the options were explained to you. Or the other way you can go about it, you can say, hey, it's my job to do the annual review. It looks like that your file is still open. It's my job to review the policy just to make sure everything in good standing. Now, guys, when you do this, I'm not saying do this and go replace people's business here. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm telling you is people will tell you they got it taken care of and they have Colonial Penn. They have all these, insurance companies that don't matter and don't make any sense and that they're really expensive and they don't provide the proper benefit. All you have to do is figure out what they have in place. And most of the time, 7 out of 10 times, you're going to be able to, find something better. And keep in mind, guys, if you talk to a client and they're in a policy that's best for them with a different company, they're staying in that. You're not replacing it. You're going to hang the phone up. You're going to tell them you're in the best hands possible. If anybody ever calls you trying to replace this policy, you tell them to screw off and hang the phone up. I'm being very serious because, guys, I've sat in so many homes recently, it's not even funny, where people are rewriting like legit policies that are whole life, great standing, about to be paid up, and they're replacing it for like universal life and all these things just to make that sale. So keep in mind, all I'm going to tell you guys is your book of business will be persistency will stay high as long as you're looking for the client's best needs. So when you're doing that and you're reviewing the file and you're saying it's been flagged by the underwriting department, yes, it is a little bit of wordplay to get the person to give the insurance information. Of course it is. It's telesales at the end of the day. But you have to keep in mind that you're trying to do what's for the client's best interest, if that can make sense. So I already got that taken care of. I just say, perfect, that's the purpose of my call. It's my job to review the policy, or it's been flagged by underwriting departments for review.
Yep. And just like Rami said, guys, you call and they're in the best plan possible, but NLG and, Johnny Smith wrote it, and you leave it alone, you tell them how great it is, and there's no other opportunity there, you move on. But being able to, Rami, have you ever talked to somebody who said they already got it taken care of and like they didn't actually get anything taken care of and had no idea why you were calling?
Oh yeah, tons of
Those
times,
are like
tons.
those are like the best appointments, right? Because they tell everybody that they already got it taken care of, but then you're the one that's willing to be like, well, it got flagged by the underwriting department. It's just my job to go ahead and make sure you have all the proper options. Just takes about 10 minutes, Rami, go ahead and grab a pen and paper, right? So it's like, guys, sometimes folks didn't even get anything in place. Okay, so we got to be aware that just like sometimes when our phones ring in the middle of the day and we answer that random phone number and we're like, oh God, who's this? And we don't know who it is. And we're just like, okay, that's great, bye. Like that, sometimes that's happening too, guys, and it's not necessarily an insult. It's just that they weren't in the right place and time to take the call. They don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So already got that taken care of. Perfect. All right, we hit on that. And then Rami, I would say the next most common thing you're getting on the phone is, I didn't fill that out.
Yeah, that is. And now I know a lot of people that like to say that, okay, I don't remember what I ate for breakfast either. It was a form you filled out. I'm very direct on the phone, and you guys should be, because again, 1%. I'll be very honest, like especially with the ways the leads are set up, you can literally see the person filling it out. So if someone tells you they didn't fill it out, guys, put in the back of your head, yes, they did. So I would say, no, Marisa, it was a form you did fill out regarding the state regulated final expense programs. Or Marisa, it was the form you filled out for the affordable veteran life insurance, where you put down your branch of service was the Army and your beneficiary your spouse. Purpose of my call, I'm just the underwriter. The main point of the objection, guys, is to take it, deflect it, say a rebuttal, and go right back to the script. So the fact they tell you they didn't fill it out, BS. They definitely filled it out. Just say, no, yes, it is, sir. It's the one that you filled out online. It was on Facebook. You'd watch that video, bring it back to the ad if you can, or if not, just say, sure, it was the ad that you filled out on Facebook to make sure if you were to pass away, your wife's taken care of, and that there's no burden whatsoever on your final expenses. You put down the direct of service as the military. Use what they give you as like kind of ammo and provide that to them. They're gonna remember filling out the form online. They're gonna remember getting the mortgage lead, filling it out, sending it back in. Just keep in mind to bring them back to why they filled it out and who they put down as the beneficiary is the most important part to doing so. Because again, they definitely filled it out. It's BS they tell you they didn't. So put in your head, guys, if you're a new agent on this call, yes, they filled it out. So don't hesitate at all. Don't call and say, hi, is this Mary? No, it's Mary. It says Mary. They called it. Call her. It's Mary. It's a guy. He's answering the phone. Who cares? Just know it's Mary who filled it out.
100%. And I think that that's actually a huge deal in terms of, I didn't fill that out, because you're not like, oh, it was the one where you put down Mary as your beneficiary and your date of birth is 9/3/93. Like you're saying it and you're getting right back onto your script. Saying what you got to say,
Exactly.
get right back onto your script. So just like Rami said, he's accepting what the person's saying. He's basically saying like, that's great, but you did fill it out, reflecting and like, so accept what they say. And then like essentially just reflect it back to them. Like, yeah, you did. You put that, like, I have your information here as blah, 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 blah. Guys, if you're on this call and you've ever sold an insurance policy, like you have said to somebody, like they said, I didn't fill it out. And you were like, you put your date of birth as 9/3/93 and your beneficiary is Rami Hamady. Do you remember that? And they're like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's like, so if we're not saying that, guys, like they're not going to remember it. Okay. And Rami, one other thing I just want to hit on quickly, just for any agent on here. I think it's really important. What Rami said, it's like, there could literally, like, guys, like this sticky note could appear on Rami's desk tomorrow morning. And I'm not being funny, I'm being dead serious. And it could say John Smith with the phone number and the state that John Smith resides in. Okay. What's going to happen is Rami's going to call the lead and he is 100% convinced that John Smith filled that out. Rami, throughout this business, has there ever been a time that you convinced yourself that somebody didn't fill any lead that you called ever? And you've called every kind of lead. Is that pretty much fair to say?
Yeah, 100%.
Would you ever say you convinced yourself like, oh no, like no one filled these out. Someone made these leads up.
No, definitely not. Because guys, you can't have that mindset to begin with at all. Because if you do, you're gonna fail. You have to have the mindset, guys, to be extremely assumptive. You have to have blind faith, especially as a new agent in this business. Now, me being here, guys, for quite some time, I know they sold them out, right? I know they're warm leads. I know what they can provide and what they can do for my family when they're worked properly, and you actually take the time to set a schedule, to dial, to do the income producing activity, and to actually, get out there and help your family. But keep in mind, guys, that yes, no, I've never 1 second doubted a lead because I know there's somebody who needs the help. And I know that it's not fair to that person if I'm doubting their intent. If I'm saying that, oh, because it's an internet lead off whatever source, that's not fair. That's not fair at all, guys. That could be my mom. True. My mom could have went online, filled that form out, and she's looking to protect me and my brother and make sure if anything happens to me, they're okay. So never, guys, doubt somebody's intent just based off, the lead or target audience you're focusing on. Just keep in mind that they're a family who needs the help. You're the underwriter. It's your job. You're the broker. However you guys are phrasing it, it's just your job to explain the programs they qualify for. And when you do that, you will find a problem. We will be able to present a solution and find a need. We're brokers. We work with so many companies. We have great product guys and great carriers. All we have to truly do is get the foot in the door and explain to them, hey, this is what we offer. This is the problems I see in your life, and this is how I can provide the solution.
Perfect. Perfect. And then a couple other ones we're going to hit on, guys, because again, no one's at home planning these, okay? Like, and if they are, like, I don't know, I'm excited for them, I guess. I don't know, because I haven't heard of them. But next one that you probably got on the phone when we're actually in the appointment now. So Rami, you're doing your appointment, you get to the end, you're showing them your options, and they're like, you know what, Rami, these look great, but like we're just going to talk tonight, and we're probably going to go with one, but like we just have to think about it. We just got to pray about it tonight.
Yeah. So guys, the first thing about that is, yeah, I don't get that too often. Now, there's definitely a common objection. I don't get that too often because I'm setting the table, and as Marisa says, that being proactive versus reactive in a way. So there's something called a role and purpose. It should be your only constant. Basically, all that does is it sets the table and make sure that what I'm there to do is help them write the application. I'm the broker. I shop around for them. I work with all these companies. My job is to find something affordable and that meets their goals. Now, assuming that we're going to find those two, that it's not like a grocery store where you can like it and buy it like a loaf of bread, you got to qualify for it, right? So my job is to send that request to the company. Now, once they approve it, the bank's going to be drafted and their policy is effective. Are they ready to begin? I make them agree, guys, on that. So once they agree on there, even in the beginning, when you start saying it and like they see them a little off and they're like, yeah, okay, it's very, very hard when you get to the very end and they say, I gotta think about it because you can remind them about everything you just talked about. And in the very beginning, you agreed that, hey, this makes sense for both of us, for them and their family, that we're going to go ahead and submit the application. But let's say at the end, I did that and they're being stubborn and they're still telling me I need to think about it. I'll say what Marie said, that's great and all. However, you can think about it, you can pray about it, you can sleep on it. However, if you're not going to qualify, there's nothing to think about. What most families do is they understand that if something happens to them tonight, their family's not okay tomorrow. Let's go ahead and put what we call the starter package in place or the bronze option, however lead you guys are targeting. And let's make sure that no matter what happens tonight, if you pass away, you have peace of mind knowing that if you pass away, your family's not going to look at their coffee cup and think, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to bury my family? How am I going to handle my mortgage? How to replace my income? You guys have peace of mind knowing that something is better than nothing. And that's the kind of approach I take.
Perfect. So you hit them with the starter plan. Let's get you qualified. We don't even know if you qualify. You can think on it, sleep on it, pray about it. Now, sometimes, Rami, that can cause like a persistency issue, right? Like, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. I'm going to put the elephant in the room. Guys, you don't want to close on like the whole, like, well, the insurance company has to make a decision too. Rami, when you're closing that way, can you talk to us a little bit about how once you're getting down to banking, you are explaining this is indeed going into force?
Of course. So I guess in the beginning, I tell them your policy. So once your make is drafted, this policy is effective. And I don't get into the application, guys. In the very beginning, I say, now go and grab your driver. Go grab your license and a voided check. I'm not going to start the app unless they have both of those. And they're going to say, why do you need my check? One, to make sure you are who you say you are. No one's going to pay for insurance under your name, and it's for an active form of payment. Oh, why? Am I going to be charged? Well, technically, you're not going to be charged until you're approved, but if you are approved, which most families get a decision within 24 to 48 hours, your bank will be drafted. Are you ready to move forward? Guys, be direct. I'm telling you, you'd rather, like Lisa said, you want sticky business. You want business that's going to stick on the books. You don't want to go through the whole application, talk about it, think about it, submit it, say, hey, you're approved. And now they thought about it and they tell you, hey, I don't need it. The main point in telling them is that they could think about it, pray about it, sleep on it, is to put urgency. And what I would say is, instead of going into the app, push a bit more. Say, okay, guys, families, they don't make decisions because of one of two reasons. One, you don't trust me, or you don't have enough information. I either failed you today because I didn't do my job, I didn't explain the property to you guys, or you don't trust me. If you don't trust me, here's my license, here's my credentials. We can look up together on the state website. I'll walk them through NIPR, walk them through CERCON, whoever the case may be. And I literally have them print my license. I don't care. Truly, they'll PDF it the whole nine. Or I ask them, tell me where I confused you. Tell me where I didn't explain this properly. If it's a budget thing, tell me, because I can tell you guys you want the IUL, you want the money back, you want living benefits, but in reality, all you guys can inform is payment protector. All you guys can inform is a flat term, right? So that's where I will go back to. I don't just let it go. I kind of go back and I say, all right, tell me more. Like, why can't you make a decision? Because in the beginning, you told me if we find a program that meets your needs and your budget, we're going to move forward with the application. And me telling you the bank is needed to charge your account should not make you wary, because if you pass away, your family's going to have that protection. So what's going on? Tell me why you don't trust me, basically.
Right. And guys, like, you can be like, oh, he doesn't really say that. Like, yeah, he does. Like, I literally have heard this conversation like not every day, but all the time, guys, I hear it. And it's like, it's great because it's like, love the one you're with. But guys, remember, like, the one you're with, like, when you get off the phone, especially like it's a phone call, guys. Like 10 to 1 says like you're never gonna talk to that person again. So it's like, when you're with them, like, love the one you're with, create the why, paint the pictures. That's what Rami's saying. He goes back and he's like, you just told me that if John dies tomorrow, Mira, you have $981 Social Security coming in the monthly mortgage payment's $1,500. Like, what are we going to do? Right? We got to get something started. All right. Let's get you started in the starter package, John. So guys, everything is still very well explained. Okay. It's just more so about making sure that when we're explaining that, it's sticky business, right? We don't want to be like, well, let's see if we can get you qualified and start them at the $600 option. Like, I can promise you they're not going to like that unless it's explained. All right. So, Rami, last thing kind of, that maybe you bump into when you are getting objections and rebuttals at the end of that appointment is, I can't afford it. Talk to us a little bit how you handle that.
Yeah, so I've been getting that a little bit recently. So when I go into my pitch, I kind of know I use something called like income percentage based pricing. All it is, guys, using 2 to 5% of their income. So what I do is I take their mortgage. I do all mortgage protection, guys, and some veteran final expense, but mainly mortgage. So what I do is I get their mortgage, their income total of the household, everything. I'm talking social, disability, the whole nine, like RMDs, like retirement planning, any rental properties, whatever income that truly comes in the house, even cash on the table. That's why I know what they really make every month. And then what I'll do is I'll take 2 to 5% of that after I subtract their mortgage and their second largest bill, then after the gross median income of groceries. In Boston, at least, that's $300. So I do $300 a week. I times that by 4. That's $1,200. Take that, their mortgage or rent, and their second largest bill. Typically, it's car insurance and a car. At that point in time, when you take 2 to 5% of that income, you can tell a family when they say, hey, I can't afford it. One, you can try to rationalize and reason and say, well, after paying all your bills, this is only 2% of your income. That means you can pay all your bills and maintain 98% of your disposable income. Is your wife and your family worth that 2%? And I'm very direct when I say that. Or I'll revisit the conversation and I'll say, okay, like we can reduce it, we can drop a bit. Most families understand that they need to have peace of mind knowing that if they pass away today, there's peace of mind knowing their final expenses are taken care of tomorrow. Now they understand that their family can avoid foreclosure and avoid probate. They understand they can replace income. So I just basically I'll fit it to fit their budget. I'll find something to put in place, whether it be replacing income, covering a mortgage, or even doing an equity program when they can qualify for term. But I say, hey, you know what? I'd rather give you this permanent program in place that's going to guarantee the house. Have enough time to make monthly mortgage payments. Just all depends on again what their budget is. But if you guys do a thorough inventory, I'm not telling you guys collect all their income here. That's not what I do. Like I don't sit here and tell me your Netflix bill, your Comcast bill. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm telling is people they know their budget. So as long as you're not, overshooting, and in my situation, only showing a full payoff, only going for a cashback option, only doing these extravagant programs. If somebody wants a term, it's okay. Show them a term policy. I get it. That $30 difference may not mean a lot to us, but to them, it does. So just make sure that you guys are always looking for what the client truly wants and listen to what they're saying. They say, hey, I'm going to sell this house in 20 years. I hope to have it paid off. My kid's 18. I want to make sure that if anything happens to me, they're okay. That's a 15 or 20-year term, guys, to make sure that the kid can get older, the family hits retirement. That's about it. That can make sense, guys. To go down a rabbit hole with that one.
No, it's good though. And another thing too, Ram, you ask folks like, how much money do you save every month? Is that right?
Yes, I do. I say, do you
And
guys
it's like,
save or do you guys spend?
yep. And like, if they tell you that they're savers and they save, $1,000 a month, like you're almost able to use that, right? Same thing, like if they make a higher payment on the mortgage, it's like, well, don't we want to protect it, right? So it's almost guys like using the information that you already have, but also not being scared to go down. I think that this is huge. Like you might show option A, B, and C. Option C might be $50 a month. If they're telling you, I cannot afford that, like Rami, I cannot afford it, I can't do it. He's gonna drop the coverage, right? And if he doesn't, Rami, which he would, or anybody that if we don't do that, guys, we're asking for bad business, right? So like, let's just make sure when we're setting the client up, we're setting them up for success.
And guys,
And then
not to cut yourself, not to cut you off, but guys, if you're doing a lot of YouTube better at FEX, if they're asking you right to cover their funeral, don't go and show them like 100K. Like if they're telling you, hey, I need 100K for a funeral or cremation, like bring it back to the need. Make the initial sale, which means, guys, cremation 5, 10K, funeral 10 to 25,000. Don't go any higher unless like they truly can afford it and they need it. Just get the fundamental base stone and then say, okay, we got that FEX taken care of. Now let's do another policy for legacy. Now let's add extra money behind for your family. Now you can of course can add it together, but first make sure they understand the fundamental need of protecting what really needs protecting. And whatever that equates to, that's what it is.
absolutely. And also, guys, people might say like another one is like shopping around. I think that we do a great job of talking about how we're brokers. We work with all, Rami and I say all 80 companies that operate here in the state of Massachusetts. Our job's to do that shopping around. So guys, if you're getting shopping around, you got to just be doing something stronger in that introduction or talking about how you work with the companies that are A-rated within that state. We work with some of the best companies, guys. Do that shopping around for your client, and they really shouldn't have a whole lot of shopping to do. I had a lady text me earlier this morning, final expense client. She's like, I did do shopping around after I talked to you, and I'm really happy I talked to you first and that we applied for the starter program. So I want to go to option A because you indeed have the best prices. All I did was use insurance toolkits, make sure I was getting her the best price. She was very appreciative of it, guys. So just do our job and it's going to reap the rewards. And now a couple questions in the chat, Rami. Are you auto texting fresh leads or just calling first?
I'm just calling, guys. I don't have a dialer. I just call. Like I just manually call myself. I just call through all my leads. I'll have a sheet. I'll just run through it. I'll call. I have all my manual like mortgage mail here. You guys probably gonna laugh, but oh, there we go, stack. But I have them all here. I just take them. I call them, guys. I'm very old school. Yeah, I don't have any like there. I have a CRM. Don't get me wrong. I use a CRM, but like I'm not techie. Like I know I can use tech. Don't get me wrong. Give me like a couple hours to figure it out. But I'll be honest, I procrastinate on that side. I just like to do my manual stuff, and it works for me.
And even with the text strips, Rami, again, to answer your question there in the chat, Rami does do the text strips. He's just manually calling the folks before he's stripping on them text wise.
Yeah,
And then
100%. I'll definitely add them to the CRM and stuff, but yes, I'll definitely call them first before I put in any type of automation. I have to call my leads first.
absolutely, you like to be that first hit, so to say. And now, Rami, when sometimes, great question in the chat. So like, let's just say you're in a mortgage appointment, you think they're going to qualify term, you go through it, decline. They're not telling you something about their health. Maybe you find out you're in a guaranteed issue situation. How are you pivoting from, okay, John and Mary, we're looking to cover the whole mortgage for 100 grand to an equity rescue or guaranteed issue type of situation?
Yeah, so the equity rescue or guaranteed issue, to me, the same thing. It just means, guys, all you do is explain to the family that, guys, the most important goal here was protecting your property, correct? And they're going to
Yep.
always agree with that. So be assumptive. Yes, is that the most important goal, Marisa?
Yeah, it was.
All right. Now, most families, according to the health, unfortunately, we can't find any program that's going to pay off the full house. However, what we can do is make sure we're avoiding foreclosure. What this is called the critical period equity protection program. It's meant to make sure in the critical period of time, when you pass away, borrower or major income earner, the family has enough number of monthly mortgage payments covered where they're able to pay the bank on a month-by-month basis, avoid defaulting on the mortgage, avoid foreclosure, and they're able to first and foremost mourn their family. Secondary, they're able to either gather funds and either, sell the house or refinance if they needed to. But most importantly, try to figure out how to stay in the house. But the most important part is to sell the house and save the equity. And if somebody tells me, and let's say they're unhealthy and it's AIG, I say, what bank gives you 10% interest on a saving account? If I put $100 in the bank in 1 year, that's 1,200. If you live in, 12 months, that's $1,200. You live in 2 years, that's gonna be 2,400. with the AIG, you're going to get 10% or 20% interest given back to you. I would say, guys, it's better than the bank. I know you're betting on yourself. You're going to continue to live. You're not betting on yourself dying. And I kind of push them into that and to understand that all you're doing is setting aside peace of mind, and that 10-20% is better than the bank.
Love that. And I think that's really important, guys, because just like Rami said, there's really not a bank that's going to give us 10%. If there is, call me after this call and let me know. No, I'm half kidding, half not. There's really not a bank that's going to give us that. All right. So just, guys, make sure you keep that in mind. Guaranteed issue is not a bad product. If the shoe fits, wear it, guys. I have so many people that I've been in this industry for so long. I have folks that have been in GIWL policies and they're probably going to outlive me. Okay. Like, so it doesn't mean like they're going tomorrow, guys. It just means like, hey, their health doesn't qualify them immediate. So let's make sure they understand that 10%, and that's huge. Now, Rami, we talk about a cookie cutter, system, so to say, for objections and rebuttals. Talk to us about what that means specifically in regards to like rebuttaling.
Yes. So say one more time, Risa. I'm sorry, cut a little bit.
So we talk about like a cookie cutter, you know what I mean? If you will, like a one way we all kind of copycat business, right? For objections. So talk to us about what that means in regards to like rebuttals. Like you kind of already did.
Exactly. So what that means, guys, in total, I get referring to Risa. So basically, guys, in this business, again, you want to make sure, just like in any sport, muscle memory is key, right? So think of this sport, objection rebuttal as muscle memory. If I could say the objection the same way over and over again, every single time, it's going to sound more fluid. If I sound more fluid, I sound more normal. More normal just means in turn, I want to book more appointments. So cookie cut, all that means is, guys, when you're saying the objection that, hey, it's my job to complete my turn of requirement and release my liability, that you're saying that every single time. Because, guys, if you say that, again, you have 100 people and you don't say that to 100 people who tell you, hey, I don't want this, yada, 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 they're not going to book. You have 100 people where you do say that objection to or rebuttal to, they're going to book. Some are going to actually listen to you. So the main point, guys, is to be very consistent. And cookie cut, it's a copycat business. The best copycat wins, guys. And all I did, to be honest, is copy Marisa, truly. And when I came to business, I literally, like you said, I harassed Marisa in a way. I asked her after every appointment, what do I say? How do I say it? When I'm calling, am I calling the right way? We keep our office doors open, even though we're side by side in the office, just so she can hear me and hear how I dial. So, guys, I would tell all of you to do that or talk to your upline, your mentor, until you sound the same for every appointment. Because, guys, again, I promise you, if you literally follow me and hop on Zoom and hear me pitch and hear me call, I sound the same for every single appointment. I may mirror my tone a little bit, but outside of that, I understand that a cookie cut is my best way to get the numbers I need. Because at that point,
Rami, what
it's a
Zoom
numbers
room
game.
are you in every day dialing?
And then FFL on GS live dials, so our live dial room, the one that's in the virtual home office, guys.
Got
So,
it.
yeah,
It's the one. It's Golden State Live Dials, right?
that's the link, guys. Yeah, they have a secondary link. You guys
Yeah,
click that in
the
the chat.
secondary link is the dialteam.fflall.com. We'll send it to
There
the
we
same
go.
place.
I just have that one saved, yeah, in my head. Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing, guys. And definitely, you guys need to go on a dial team, guys. I know you guys should have one. Go on. If you're not, hop on a dial team, guys. Dial team is huge, especially going on there together and hearing other top producers produce. Being a new agent, you need that because you need to know what to say. The easy example I can do is the quarterback analogy, right? Having my AirPod connected to my Zoom and my manager being able to hear me on this call and he can tell me what to say and how to say it. It's going to help all of us make much more sales faster than after your first 30 appointments. You sound just like me.
Rami, I know you run a lot more mail than digital, but the digital that you do run, what is the main difference that you've seen between the two? Obviously, you're just probably used to the mail, but what do you think between the two?
The main two, I'd say you just want to learn to turn curiosity into intent in a way, where I would say in the mailer, they have just not more higher intent, but they get a letter in the mail, it has a letter on it. They feel they made more urgency to fill it out, where the person on Facebook, they're looking, for the insurance. The guys online, they're actually looking for the insurance. They went by the ad, they saw it, something intrigued them and made them think about, hey, I need this. They were curious about it. What does it do? How much does it cost? It's our job to turn that curiosity, tie it to a real life issue, and then make it into intentional buying, which means, all right, guys, they filled it up to protect my wife. Tell me more about that. So the main thing, guys, I would say is bring up the why a little more and try digging into it. And I know that a lot of you may think, wait, that sounds backwards. It should be a little quicker. If I'm on the phone for an hour, it would be too long. Guys, my average phone call is like an hour long for each of my appointments because I sit there and I actually get to know the why. And for digital guys, I would say get the why. Really find what the why is, not just paying off my house, not just make sure my wife is okay. but saying what that means and
That's a
bringing it up, that's the
great
biggest
point.
difference.
I know we're going to wrap it up soon, but can you go a little bit more into that? Because I think when people, they start talking, and as soon as the person says, I filled this out because I want to pay my house off, they accept that surface answer, and then they attempt to go into the sale. What have you learned? Because obviously you're very good at it. When someone gives you that surface answer, how do you dig deeper to make sure it's something that they definitely want and make sure it's something that they're going to buy and it's going to stick? How do you
Of
do that?
course. Of course. So the first thing right in the beginning, guys, like I said, I do that role on purpose. And then right after that, I ask one question. Do I have permission to be brutally honest through this whole conversation? The second they tell me yes, guys, I'm direct and I mean that. I'm very in your like I'm just very straightforward. So Mike, you'll tell me, okay, I want to make sure if I pass away, my wife's taken care of. I say, okay, Mike, who makes more money in the house? You or the wife. You would tell me the income, and I would say, okay, Mike, so let's say you make 5,000 and your wife makes 5, that's 10 together. If you get sick or disabled or passed away, your 10 goes down to 5. You guys are losing 50% of the income in the house. Your bills and mortgage maintain the same. Mary, how do you replace that income? Now, Mary, God forbid Bob died yesterday. What are you doing today? Bob, you can't talk. He died yesterday. And I literally say that on the phone, on speakerphone. I say, Bob, you can't. They laugh, guys, all the time. I say, don't talk. And the Mary's gonna start telling me. She's gonna say, well, Rami, it's tough. Well, I don't know. I have my savings, my 401k. That's for your retirement, guys. Your 401k is meant for when you're 55, 65, and 75. And if I called you today and I said, hey, do you want to take your 401k to pay off the mortgage? You're going to tell me no, that's not what it's designed for. So keep that in mind, guys. That's not meant to do that. So that's how I'll do that. I'll literally like just ask the power question, say, what does it look like for you guys today? You know, is it fair to say, guys, that you want to avoid that burden? All right, you're like most family guys. You want to protect your family. You're a pretty straightforward case. We just got to find what's affordable for you guys. And we just get down into the inventory.
I like it. That was my biggest mistake. I think when I first started in insurance, I would accept that surface answer. And I thought that was a sale and I wasn't good at that part. So I think, people need to learn to do that. Trey posted something about the CRM center. I think the mortgage protection leads and the veteran leads are by far the best leads that are in there. I mean, people are obviously killing final expense. We got new guys crushing final expense. We got people absolutely killing the IULs. But the mortgage protection, the veteran leads, the videos on those are just so straightforward. When it's final expense, there's always some talk about, some vet or Social Security or even the IULs. You're talking about be your own bank and, all these other things. But when you're talking about mortgage, the videos on there are so, just straightforward. If you die, who's going to take care of the house? And on the veteran leads, it just talks about, the VGLI insurance going up every 5 years. So those two leads, I think out of everything that we're doing, are the absolute strongest, and the premium is much bigger on those than anything else. So it's exciting watching what's going on, Rami. I appreciate it. And if anyone wants to jump on the live dials, I think that's the biggest problem that I do see is people not being involved with live dials. You can see people like Rami on there every single day dialing and crushing. So I know there's a bunch of different rooms, but you need to be in one of them and watch what people are doing. So I appreciate the call tonight, Rami. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Frank. And thank you, Marisa. I appreciate it. How you doing?